My name is Kristen and I am the Reborn artist at Little Love's Nursery. Today I'm going to demonstrate painting with Genesis Heat Set paint on a Bountiful Baby kit. This is Bountiful Baby's kit, Joey, and I'm going to first start with a flesh layer. I'm using Genesis Heat Set paint Flesh 08. I've filled my center well here with odorless thinner, and you want a consistency that is not thick, not too thin. You'll kind of play around with it. Fill up your brush, get the excess off, dab it on a cosmetic sponge, and then you're going to want to do pouncing with your sponge. And you should be able to see a slight change in the vinyl color. Now the shine will wear off as the odorless thinner evaporates. You want to go all around your doll's head, making sure you don't put too much in the creases. If you get too much in the creases, you can always go with a dry brush and blot it out. This step, the faster you go, it seems the better it works. Genesis Heat Set paint is a non-toxic, odor-free artist oil paint. You're going to do the same thing to your limbs, and you're going to completely cover every part of your doll. Here is an example of a leg done with one layer of the flesh and a leg done without any flesh on it at all. Joey's had a complete layer of flesh on all of his limbs and his head. He is now ready to be baked at 265 degrees for 8 minutes. I put him on a cookie sheet with a towel just so his vinyl won't get too hot against the cookie sheet and melt. You want to make sure you don't put him in the oven or any kit in the oven longer than 8 minutes. Now I have Joey the color I want him, so I'm going to start his veining. I dip into the odorless thinner, into the phthalo blue, and the phthalo green. This is supposed to be very thin. Get the extra off on your napkin. And start applying your veins onto your head. These are just kind of random, wherever normal veins would be. If they get too dark, you can rub them off with a paper towel, a cosmetic sponge. And you can even put them in the back of the head. This will show through in your rooting. You do the same thing on your limbs, just placing them where your veins are. After this step, you're going to bake your doll again. After each step and each layer, the Genesis Heat Set paint needs to be set. I'll show you how to mix your blush, lip, and nail color. I take my Pearl Red 2 into a well. I've filled this well with odorless thinner. You're going to need a lot of this color. Then you're going to take a dab of burnt umber and an even smaller amount of your phthalo blue too. If your color seems to look a little too purple, you can go back in and add a little more red. I'm ready to start my blushing. I'm going to do a little bit of a textured skin using a sea sponge. I've cut off a small piece, so I'm going to dip into my color that I have just made. Get all the excess off and just gently rub along the sea sponge. You can also blot the sea sponge out a little bit. And you're going to pick up your doll, and you're not going to pounce on this step. You're just simply going to roll it on the skin. And you're going to just get a very light coating. Now this you can go over and over and over again, but you always want to have light coats. If they seem like they're getting too blotchy, then you can go in and pounce them with a sponge. This is going to give you a nice, subtle, textured skin. I'm going to do this all over my head and all over my limbs. Now Joey has been taken out of the oven and he has his splotching, but it's very subtle on him. Now I'm going to start his blushing using the exact same color that we mixed earlier for the splotching. I'm going to just get all the excess off my brush, put on a cosmetic sponge, just a tiny bit at a time. I'm going to blot it out. And then blushing, you don't need it everywhere, you know. You're going to just put it in a few spots. It's just going to be very subtle. You can always go back and add more on the cheeks, on the little tip of the nose and your chin, and down the other cheek. I put a little bit around the eyes, on the ear. Now leave some spots without this blushing color so you can still see your flesh coming through. The nice thing about the Genesis paint is it's very translucent, so you get to see each layer. This is the same pouncing technique or patting technique that we used when we were applying our flesh. It's just a lot more random. And I'll put him on my tray to be baked again, and I'll start on my limbs. Now this is the part where you're going to add the coloring to the bottom of your feet. With the same color still, you're going to go in a U shape, or C shape. U, I guess, if you're looking this way. And just add some nice color. I also like to add a little color on my knees and come back and go over my toes. And then just a little bit here and there. You don't want to cover the whole limb. Now I'm going to show you on Joey's hand. You're going to want to add your reddish blushed color in the little palm. And a little bit on the fingers. You don't want to get too much on the fingers because then they will look way too red. A little bit on the elbow, and then again, just a little bit on and off. Just add some nice color to your skin. Now this is a step that's great for the beginners. If you're on your first kit, or maybe you've done a few, and you're not ready for the textured skin tone, you can skip that step with the sea sponge and go directly into this step, and you're still going to have a very nice Reborn doll. Now Joey is blushed all over. Now I'm going to start my lips and the creases, all with the same color. For the lips, you're going to just slightly touch with your brush and paint on the lips. You don't want this too heavy, just like everything else. You can always go back and add more. It's harder to take it off. And that's one reason why we bake in between every layer, because if you do want to get something off, you don't want all your layers to come off. You just want that one layer off. Then now for the creases, you'll pick up the same color and you just go into the creases. You don't want a wet brush. You want it to be just a slight bit of paint down there, just to give them a little bit of depth along the eyes. Now Joey has some wrinkles on his forehead. Now you can go in those if your doll does, but you don't want to get those dark. Now I'm also going to shade in the nose on Joey. You can open their noses, but Joey's nose is pretty deep, so he's not one that needs to be opened. This is the time I also do my nails. Just a slight shade on each nail. All right, well now